Here is your vivid reminder amidst the horde of Trump supporters saying that their number one issue in this country ahead of the 2024 presidential election is the border crisis, which could have actually been heavily alleviated and eased. But because of, you guessed it, Donald Trump, it was not. First off, I would very quickly like to preface that we are all illegal aliens by the MAGA crowd's own standards and logic. We weren't originally here in America. The Native Americans settled this land long before we did and inhabited it. But you know what we did to them? We intruded what was their land, massacred them and their children, raped and maimed them, and brutally forced relocation among them. But tell me again how today's immigrants who simply just want to escape oppression and come here to pursue the American dream and be treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve are the ones that are ruining our country. But anyways, now to the main focus. Earlier this year, Senate Republicans sponsored and proposed exhaustive action to address the situation at the southern border and reduce the influx of illegal immigrants. The bill soon and very quickly assembled bipartisan support from both parties, and President Biden had pledged to sign this piece of legislation if and when it made it to his executive desk after being passed by the House and Senate. You know how it goes. Well, everything was going well, and it was anticipated on being passed, unanimously, by the way. But then Donald Trump had heard about this news and the fact that it was about to be enacted into law, and then he called up his Republican colleagues in the United States Senate, and he successfully dissuaded them from taking this up for a vote on the Senate floor, because he actually doesn't give a damn about resolving this problem. He just wants to run on it so he can have a critical talking point against President Biden and Vice President Harris, and so he can continue to pinpoint the blame on them for this issue and receive votes using his manipulation and avert tactics. Unfortunately, is working in this country currently because the majority of Americans don't do their research and just tie the fact that Biden is president and this issue still hasn't been solved, therefore it must be Biden and Harris's fault, right? Well, again, no, because they both supported this bill, which was endorsed by the Border Security themselves, who were relieved to hear that this bill was impending and about to be instituted into law, as they understandably should have been. This distinguished prestigious and concrete bipartisan legislation would have excelled more than 1,500 new border agents to surveil and protect our border. It would have also ramped up an additional 4,300 asylum officers and would have made the asylum process much faster, giving them more time to do initial screenings, which are currently stagnant. This agreement would have also increased the number of detention beds by 10,000, changing it from the current 40,000 to 50,000. This would have provided funding for an additional 100 immigration judges and their associated staff. Another one, it would have also installed high-tech, innovative, cutting-edge inspection machines to help detect fentanyl and other illicit substances that have came through the southern border port of entry. And this would have also included a massive $1.4 billion for cities and states who are providing critical services to newcomers, and would have expedited work permits for people who are in the country and are qualified for them. We could have had this passed and fortified our border and tackle this crisis. But because of Donald Trump and his damaging grip on the Republican Party and therefore the country, the bill got killed. Oh, and here's Trump himself bragging about killing this bipartisan border bill as well.
A lot of the senators are trying to say respectfully they're blaming it on me. I said, that's okay. Please blame it on me. Please.
Number one, that, but it also made it much better for the opposing side.
Regularized, managed the crisis.
You couldn't manage.
Now, why don't we just listen and see what many Republicans who were supportive of this bill have to say about Trump's derailment of this. Let's take a look together, shall we?
And I regret that. So everybody who comes on this floor and says our border's broken, we should do something about it, you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, we didn't get there. President Trump opposed a Senate bill, we couldn't find a better way forward that would get 60 votes. I hate that, but now we have to deal with what's left for us to take care of in the world.
I know you're not trying to zing your colleagues, but it's your colleagues in your party, sir, who torpedoed this, who didn't get the facts right on what you just outlined was in that measure. They killed it. Ironically, not Democrats.
Right. It was, and it was painful to be able to watch it. It got stirred up in all the presidential politics, and several of my colleagues started looking for ways. After President Trump said, don't fix anything during the presidential election, it's the single biggest issue during the election, don't resolve this, we'll resolve it next year. Quite a few of my colleagues backed up, looked for a reason to be able to shoot against it, and then walked away. I get that. That's a decision everybody makes in it. My issue is if we're pursuing everything, we very often end up with nothing. If we're pursuing someone coming later to fix it, later seems to never come. When we have a moment to fix things, we should fix as many things as we can then come back later and fix the rest.
That's on Donald Trump, Senator.
That, again, he's got an office that he's running for. He's got a campaign that he's running. I'm already in office. I've got a responsibility to be able to carry on this.
I know the answer. I think the demonization of Ukraine began by Tucker Carlson, who, in my opinion, ended up where he should have been all along, which is interviewing Vladimir Putin. And so he had an enormous audience, which convinced a lot of rank-and-file Republicans that maybe this was a mistake. I think the former president had sort of mixed views on it. We all felt that the border was a complete disaster, myself included. And Chad, you remember covering the phases we went through. First, there was an effort to make law, which requires you to deal with Democrats. And then a number of our members thought it wasn't good enough. And then our nominee for president didn't seem to want us to do anything at all. That took months to work our way through it. So
I think the border is a very important issue for Donald Trump. And the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling.
I'm extremely disappointed in the very strange maneuvering by many on the right to torpedo a potential border reform bill. If we have a bill that, on net, significantly decreases illegal immigration, and we sabotage that is inconsistent with what we told our voters we would do. But it would be a pretty unacceptable dereliction of your duty.
I had a popular commentator 4 weeks ago that I talked to that told me flat out, if you try to move a bill that solves the border crisis during this presidential year, I will do whatever I can to destroy you.
But I would acknowledge President Trump failed, along with Republicans, Paul Ryan and the guys. They failed in 2018 to actually move a border security bill to tighten this so that we weren't dealing with this crisis right now. They failed to actually get the wall built. President Trump signed 12 continuing resolutions after he said he would never sign another one if they didn't give him the money to finish building the wall. Look, this stuff matters. It adds up. I call balls and strikes. This is not hard.
The Speaker says that if one migrant comes across the border, that's one migrant too many, and your bill doesn't do enough to completely shut down the border.
Actually, it does completely shut down the border in many ways.